So when you hold a jar of honey, you have to start thinking on the flowers, right? What flowers went into the jar? And then what species of bee collected? How many flights the bees have to do to just produce 1 milliliter, 2 milliliters, how much time it passed? 1 whole year just to get 1 liter in excellent conditions. Who harvested? What had to happen for it to get to you? Who put it in a jar? Who did the tag? Who's selling it to you? All this process is part of the value chain. And to create fair and responsible value chains, every single piece should be aligned. Every single piece should be looking to create and striving to create a fair, responsible value chain. Sometimes as consumers, we don't understand how complex that is, and sometimes we believe fair price is fair trade, and it's not always like this.
Because if any one of those is out of balance, then it's a non-sustainable chain.
I've lived and worked all over the world. In 2012, we opened Deckman's in Emogor in Valle de Guadalupe on the grounds of an organic farm and vineyard with the goal to be as close to a sustainable 0-kilometer restaurant as possible. And I think I finally found my home. I came here because of the incredible ingredients that come from both the Sea of Cortez and the Pacific Ocean. We have beautiful produce, cheeses, meats, olive oils, all within mere miles from the restaurant. For me, it really is a chef's paradise. After I became a Mexican citizen, it was important for me to travel the country and meet like-minded chefs, ranchers, producers, fishermen, artisans, who share my commitment to responsible and sustainable farming and fishing. Join me as we explore and deep dive into the magical landscape of Mexico and discover its rich culinary tapestry. Veracruz lies along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. It's a mix of beautiful coastlines, valleys, mountains, and rainforests. It's one of the most culturally diverse states in Mexico, with a mix of indigenous, Spanish, African, and Caribbean influences. Its cuisine is a fusion of ingredients, recipes, and culinary traditions. Veracruz is where the Spanish conquest of Mexico began. Its port became the gateway into New Spain. During this period, all people, goods, and ingredients coming into the country had to enter through the port of Veracruz before moving elsewhere. During the conquest, many native people were either killed or died from disease brought by the Europeans, and their populations drastically declined. It was during this time that the African slave trade began in Mexico. They were brought by the Spanish to work on sugar plantations, cattle ranches, and as domestic servants. It wasn't uncommon for indigenous, African, and European worlds to intermix. Cooking techniques, traditions, and ingredients were shared in the fields, camps, or household kitchens. Cooking became a language, a way to connect, a way to learn, and a way to bond. This created the foundation for the multicultural cuisine of Veracruz and its lively music and dance culture. Today we are headed to Coatepec, a cloud or mesophilic forest that is known for its exceptional coffee and referred to as Mexico's coffee capital. We are here to meet Gibran Cervantes, founder of El Equimite, a biodynamic agricultural company focused on the production of specialty coffee, vegetables, and medicinal plants. Through its integrated agroecological production model, the project prevents the area from further deforestation and contributes to the local ecosystem and economy.
So, Gibran, where are we? This is your plantation, right?
This is this is our plantation. It's a coffee under shade.
Okay.
And it's into the rainforests of Veracruz, Coatepec.
So this is a rainforest here.
It's a rainforest, and our coffee plantation is a real food forest.
Okay.
Because we can grow inside of the forest, keeping all the native plants from the region.
Oh.
So we have three levels of canopy. No, the shade one, the fruit, and the coffee, and of course all the mushrooms and a lot of weeds that are under the coffee.
Okay.
So it's a real biodiversity technique to recover the.
Is that technique with the three shades? Does that happen naturally?
Yes.
In the rainforest, or is it something that you're
in the primary
creating?
forest and in the secondary forest? You have these different strains.
You have the different canopies.
Yes.
And so the coffee just fits into that plan, and the coffee likes the shade.
The essence and the structure of this plant is not to be out of the shade. So we are creating now deserts of coffee or of monoculture.
Coffee.
So this is the opposite of this.
And this is what an indigenous coffee plant event. At some point, coffee had to have been just like corn. It was indigenous. So its native habitat is in a very biodiverse, shaded place like this rainforest. And interesting, so as we take the coffee out of its context, we're creating coffee deserts.
Exactly.
Like
it's the same with the corn plantations.
Sure, exactly.
If you take out of the milpa, that it's a huge concept of permaculture,
It's
a kind of permaculture from the indigenous from Mexico.
Right.
I mean, you are taking out all the correlations between minerals, microorganisms, and organic matter inside of the soil.
The equation breaks.
So it's the same. We are doing here like a milpa concept, but in coffee.
Okay.
So the milpa concept consists in create a relation with about 15, 20 different crops inside of the corn plantation.
Each one is mutually beneficial.
And there's a lot of relation between microorganisms and the roots inside of the soil.
Sure, it's all
that they are interconnected, creating a synergy between these different crops.
But really, that's how nature grows normally anyway, before we took it out of, once again, using the word, when we took it out of its context.
Exactly.
You break the system.
Balance.
Yeah.
So it's the same with the coffee. I mean, the coffee needs these forests to protect the essence of the nature of the coffee.
Okay.
So if we are depleting these ecosystems, we are creating an imbalance of the climate change with all the crops, not just coffee.
Sure.
And not only corn. So we are in Equimite trying to protect this biodiversity. So the amazing thing about biodynamics, Drew, is that we are creating like an island of biodiversity in Equimite.
Okay.
So imagine that we need to connect the birds that have a place, a safe place with food, the bunch of insects that you are creating the house inside of Equimite.
Sure.
To develop these colonies of insects. It's amazing.
Even though it's your property line, what's happening here is different than what's happening maybe in the coffee plantation there.
Exactly.
And it brings diverse fauna and everything. It just is, it's a sponge for biodiversity. I was reading an article, if every decorative garden in the United States, so everybody that just has decorative plants that is only aesthetic, if all of that was changed to
Agriculture.
food plants,
Imagine that.
it would solve world hunger. I'm going solve world hunger, but you would amplify the production of food. You take like the shrubbery that has no purpose, and you plant something you can eat.
Imagine all that energy, all that water, all that biodiversity that we can create.
Yeah.
So the coffee, it's an opportunity because it's I choose the coffee because it's a mainstream commodity.
Sure.
So I want to rewire this thinking of the commodities and to see that as an opportunity to change our vision.
Okay.
How we are creating food, how we are, what we are consuming, of course.
Right.
To reestablish the information of the soil and start to creating a new awareness of life.
So we've taken the information out of the soil through commercial agriculture and through regenerative agriculture and through biodynamic practices. We're returning that information.
Exactly.
So it's like bringing the books back to the library and allowing all of that knowledge, all of the information that's in the soil to be there. And it only works when it's all there and it's all interconnected.
Exactly. So this is our biodynamic house for the preparations that we use. It's like the heart of the farm. So we have here the special preparations that we made with some organs of specific animals and some specific plants. The idea of these biodynamic preparations is to put in the compost and to create a being. The composting, it's a being by itself.
Okay.
So we add this information with these plants and these organs, and to put it into the ground for 6 months, you are humidifying these materials and you are creating a specific medicine to the soil. So inside we have these specific medicines. This is the heart of the farm.
The information that you're adding back to the soil.
Exactly.
To regenerate what may have been lost and to maintain.
So the material is like you can see it's very interesting. It's a very humidified, and we use each of these to the compost. So we create a balance.
Is it a catalyst for the compost?
Exactly.
So this is then going to be multiplied by itself, propagated inside the compost mix. Okay.
But in homeopathic way. So we can put.
This goes in here?
Yes. As you see, this is the amount for 1 hectare.
For 1 hectare?
Yes.
It's just very intense, very, very concentrated.
We are just talking about information.
Right, we're not applying matter, we're applying information.
It's just information. So the idea
I think that's key to understanding a lot of what biodynamics is we're applying information to the being of the soil, of the plant, of the ecosystem, as opposed to applying matter, which is what you would do in the case of putting a fertilizer.
Exactly.
So that's applying matter, this is applying information. The idea with the biodynamic preparations is not necessarily directly at the plant, but to the soil,
Exactly.
which gives the information to the plant.
We are working with the soil, not with the plants.
Not with the plant. It's not treating the symptoms, it's treating the patient.
So the goal of biodynamics is to try to see that being as a whole being.
Okay.
So you cannot separate these things because the life doesn't work like that. We need to interconnect the information again to let the being arise healthy.
Because we found a way to disconnect that information and we're trying to reconnect it. Okay. This is amazing.
When the plant is giving harvest, is giving production, it's getting sensible. It's more sensible because all the energy is putting in the seeds.
The energy it may have used for defense, it's now using for its
For
fruit.
the recreation.
Right.
To give new plants and new babies. That's why we need to be very careful about the nutrition. What we assure is the ripeness of the coffee, and the type of the fermentation depends of the great bricks in the time when we are picking.
Okay, so the amount of bricks when you harvest that determines how you're going to ferment the coffee.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, because if it depends of where we are, if we are in 19 or 24.
I keep hearing grapes numbers. Those are numbers where we harvest fruit for wine.
Really?
19 to 24. Those are like the magic numbers. That's
It's
amazing.
the same as the coffee. We have been fermented for 120 hours.
Okay. All right.
So we will do a wash process. So this is very important point because all the biodynamic work,
Whoa.
you need to limit. So if you don't do properly the fermentation, you can destroy all the work that we saw just in the tour.
Okay. Now the coffee's been washed, semi-washed.
This tool helps us to move the coffee when we want to put it in the sun or leave it inside.
Okay.
Here we have the solar dryers. This is the way that we dry the natural process. With the natural process, we need to dry very fast.
Otherwise it gets...
Otherwise, we
bad
can
stuff.
over ferment, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
No, this is very, very special and high quality coffee.
This is
very handcrafted coffee.
This is unbelievable. I know that education for you is really important.
Yes.
About the same time that you started Equimite, the finca, you also started a Montessori school.
I really believe that we need to start seeding these concepts to the first stages of the children.
Seed the concept of sustainability early.
El Equimite is very linked with the program to try to sensibilize these children to all this.
And the children come here to the finca.
Yes,
right?
they come every 3 weeks and they experiment all the biodynamic and regenerative agriculture as a part of the program to understand from the very simple aspects, what is happening in the farm, what is happening with the insects, with the soil, with the production. And Coatepec has a real story about coffee. So we are losing it, and it's a shame because all the real estate are changing the destiny of the land to establish houses, and we are losing the coffee plantations. And this is very, very important for the children to understand the crops that have been grown here for a long time.
Sure.
And all the value, not just in terms of the crop, I mean the value in nature, in ecosystems, the culture. So I really think that we need to preserve that.
And I'm enjoying learning from you.
I am enjoying too.
This is changing me. Thank you for sharing.
It's a pleasure.
A small community and school near Gibran's plantation is also providing education and resources. Their initiative is focused on protecting local bees and providing hands-on education to parents and children on how to properly manage and raise thriving bee communities. We raise bees on our ranch back in Valle de Guadalupe, and I completely understand the agricultural, economical, and medicinal importance of their biodiversity and, frankly, key to our survival. Pauline and I are meeting up with Alejandro Beltran Cordero, a passionate environmentalist, activist, and storyteller, to learn about the stingless Melipona bee that was coveted by the Mayans for its medicinal purposes. This bee is also the pollinator of the indigenous orchid that produces vanilla in Veracruz.
Estas abejas, las meliponas, han existido aquí desde hace muchos siglos en América, en todo lo que se conoce como el neotrópico. O sea, toda esta zona del mundo está poblada de meliponinos. Y tan grande es su importancia que ya los mayas tenían meliponarios con más de 2,000 cajas. Ajá.
Okay.
Y pagaban impuestos con miel.
Con miel.
A los aztecas. ¿Sí? Inclusive llegaron a pagar impuestos con miel de melipona a la corona española. Y para los mayas es una abeja sagrada. Hay un códice, el Códice de Madrid, que es un manual de manejo de meliponas en maya.
Pero hablamos un poquito de la importancia,
Sí,
de verdad, de abeja
sí,
como insecto, como
Sí.
parte de la naturaleza mundialmente.
Mundialmente,
y,
sí.
y por qué es necesario para nosotros de
ajá.
cuidar y regenerar.
No tendríamos café, no tendríamos pan, no tendríamos fruta, nada de eso existiría. Se calcula que más o menos el 70 a 80% de lo que comemos es polinizado por abejas. Y poco a poco vamos abriendo los ojos a la polinización,
Okay.
porque casi todos en el mundo pensamos abeja, pica y da miel. Pero nosotros ya pensamos la abeja poliniza, es lo más importante.
Sí, pues el mundo de plantas no existe
Sin abejas.
sin
Sí, una evolución en conjunto. Y nosotros pensamos que para que haya una gente sana tiene que haber un bosque sano. Y para que el bosque esté sano tiene que haber insectos. Tiene que haber insectos. De hecho, en esa región sabemos que en un lugar donde no hay mariposas, el aire ya no se debería de respirar. Ujú. En particular, las abejas meliponas visitan muchas plantas diferentes. Traen diferentes tipos de néctar y cuando una planta tiene una herida, ellas recogen la resina, o cuando sale una flor nueva o una rama nueva, siempre sale un poco de resina que va a curar esa zona. Las abejas toman la resina, la llevan y la transforman en lo que conocemos como propóleo.
Okay.
Ajá. La gran variedad de plantas que visitan las meliponas en particular genera un medicamento que no encuentras en ningún otro lado. La miel también de melipona tiene grandes cualidades curativas por lo mismo, porque visitan muchas plantas y son más eficaces que muchos antibióticos.
Entonces, toda esta información está llegando a un solo lugar concentrado
Ujú.
en la miel de la melipona.
En la miel de melipona, sí, 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 y en el propóleo.
Pero, wow.
When I was in Yucatan, I was introduced to Andrea Figueroa and Rodrigo Navarro of Nativa Miel. Like Alejandro, they both are activists and teachers dedicated to bee preservation efforts.
I met Rodrigo working in the Yucatan Peninsula, working with indigenous groups and vulnerable communities.
Okay.
So I'm from Mexico City, came to the Yucatan, went to this tiny community in the middle of the jungle, and there was this group of women that had stingless bees. And they started talking to me about like how these bees didn't sting, they produce very little honey, but this is a medicinal honey the Mayas used to work with. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow, like click. No, yeah, just click.
Yeah, like how do we not know this back home, like back in Mexico City? And I started learning a little bit more and more about these bees. And the Mayas had a very close relationship to these bees. The bees that we usually think of, the ones that are yellow and black, that sting us, that produce very large quantities of honey, these are not native to the American continent.
Got it.
They were introduced. But we do have other types of bees here since many, many years ago. And the Mayas had a very close relationship to these bees. First of all, if you want to start talking about bees, we need to start talking about more than 20,000 species of bees.
Wow.
And they all look, behave, and interact in like different ways. There's more than 450 species of stingless bees around the world.
So is that a constant struggle that this is what you need to educate, this is what we need to tell?
Yeah, it's a constant effort to educate people to know and learn every day about the bees, because many people work with bees but don't know a lot about bees, about the life, about their biology, about the preservation of the strategies to preserve.
Sounds like there's a lot that we still don't know about bees.
Yeah.
How important the pollinator is to the continued existence of human beings. That's where it gets really
Yeah.
complex.
It's really complex, yeah.
But a simple way is plant native plants from the region that
Sure.
you live in.
That makes
That
sense,
way
yeah.
you help bees, but also ants and all the other insects and animals that live in the region that you are.
And there may not be just one species of bee in that area. There may be 3 or 4 or 5,
Yeah.
and each one of them is pollinating a different set of plants, which allows sort of that micro area to exist. If you break a leg or a part of that, well, now there's not. There's a part of that system that's not going to survive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the uses of the melipona honey, like in a modern setting?
So melipona honey has traditionally been used for its medicinal properties.
Okay.
So as crazy as it sounds, the Mayan communities have been using melipona honey to treat eye diseases, cataracts, glaucoma, retina detachment, eye infections, for skin diseases like dermatitis, skin dryness, to heal wounds like diabetic people that won't heal fast enough. Melipona honey helps to accelerate the regeneration of tissues.
Wow.
Some people consume it as medicine or as a superfood to boost their immune system because of all the properties it has. For me, honey is a reflection from the world we live in. And how many species of like flowers can you think there are?
Hundreds of thousands.
Billions?
Yeah.
Honey, it's a combination of the nectar from the flowers and the bee's saliva. So how many different combinations of nectars do you think we could have? Like, we can't even think of that number. We live in a world that tends to standardize everything.
Yeah.
But if you look around you, the world is not like that. So we believe we need to relearn how to approach the world we live in and the food that we eat. So I like to compare honey with wine. With wine, we've been taught how to appreciate the differences, right? But nobody told us how to do that with honey, or tomatoes, or lettuce, or radish, or onions, or mangoes, or basically anything that we consume.
Right.
So honey can be as diverse as wine or more without human intervention.
Eliminating as many intermediaries. So producer, how close can I get to the producer?
Are we going to be able to have this honey in 10 years, in 15 years? Are we managing the natural resources in a responsible way?
Relating it to Baja California, we understand how important the pollinator is, because without pollinators, there's no agriculture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without agriculture, there's no food. Without food, well, the car stops running, right? We stop existing.
Vanilla originated in Mexico. It's one of the world's most expensive spices and most difficult to grow. It grows naturally in the jungles of Veracruz. It's a member of the orchid family, and it was first cultivated by the Tontacs thousands of years ago. Veracruz is the main producer of vanilla in Mexico. But like every other commodity, corn, coffee, cacao, the larger companies are taking over the land and resources and pushing small producers out. And as we see the decline of the bee population, we will naturally see the decline of orchids and their vanilla pods.
Y empecé a involucrarme con todo esto de la vainilla al conocer la orquídea y al conocer lo delicada que era y todas las costumbres que tienen los indígenas de esta zona y todo el respeto que le tienen a la orquídea de la vainilla, me fui enamorando cada vez más de este proceso. La orquídea de la vainilla es una orquídea hermafrodita, la cual tiene fruto y es el segundo condimento más caro después del azafrán. Entonces, para nosotros poder polinizar la orquídea de la vainilla es como tener a la mujer más delicada entre tus brazos, entre tus manos, porque tienes que polinizarla con mucha dedicación. Tú abres los pétalos de la orquídea y tú vas a ver que están los dos órganos, por decirlo así, y tú haces un acto sexual. Entonces, al hacer el acto sexual, que es aproximadamente de 7 de la mañana a las 11:30, 12 del mediodía, es donde la orquídea abre y si tú no logras polinizarla, cierra y muere hasta el año siguiente. Es una orquídea por una vaina. Entonces tienes que tener muchísimo cuidado de poder abrir la orquídea, insertar el polen, cuidarla, tenerla bien nutrida para que a los 9 meses, igual que una mujer, tú puedas cosechar cada vaina. Hacemos el corte de las vainas y llegan al beneficio de la vainilla. Aquí en las instalaciones pasan un proceso de despezonado, se llama despezonado, donde cada vaina le vas quitando el pezón, el pedazo de la planta que tiene y se mete a los hornos. ¿Por qué se mete a los hornos? Porque nosotros necesitamos parar o detener la maduración que traen las vainas de forma natural. Hasta que la vainilla empieza a perder la humedad, los líquidos que tienen y se vuelve una vaina flexible, con aroma, con aceites naturales. Nosotros decidimos cuánta vainilla se va para la industria, cuánta vainilla se va para el área gourmet, para los chefs, que son súper exigentes, cuáles van para perfumería, para farmacéutica. Entonces podemos diversificar los lotes de los cuales adquirimos en diferentes partes de la República Mexicana. Pues ya llevo 22 años a cargo, dándole la vuelta, innovando, creciendo y con una bandera súper orgullosa de que trabajamos con muchísimos productores en diferentes zonas, que esto es una empresa ya de 5 generaciones y donde el aroma y el sabor a la vainilla la tenemos impregnada en las venas. Y más porque es denominación de origen de esta zona del Totonacapan. México está como último productor de vainilla a nivel mundial.
Eric Guerrero is chef and owner of Restaurant Namic, located in the port town of Veracruz. He is passionate about supporting local fishermen, promoting best practices, and being an advocate for sustainability within the fishing industry. How does the relationship directly with the fishermen affect you?
Esta relación siempre se ha visto como un asociado, como un socio comercial, y nunca como un proveedor, el pescador, el yo te compro al precio que yo quiera, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque el valor agregado que como cocinero le pude dar al pescado, eso está increíble. Por si no tengo el producto, chef.
Right. Yeah.
¿No? Y si a través de los pescadores no me llega el producto, pues no va a ser negocio, ¿no?
Sure, exactly.
Nos conviene más vender este producto a nuestra pesca que venderlo a pescadería. Una, porque pues va uno aprendiendo y vas cuidando pues, el medio ambiente. De la otra manera, nosotros hacíamos una pesca pues, depredadora y aquí ya no. Aquí vas aprendiendo a cuidar
Sure.
y a capturar lo que realmente te sirve.
Puedo pensar que a ti te da gusto de saber el camino que va a traer tu pescado.
Sí.
Porque trabajando con un comprador grande que se junta con todos los otros pescadores, todo tu trabajo y tu cuidado se pierde en el momento de venderlo.
Claro.
Se pierde tu cara, se pierde la historia del pescador,
Sí.
¿no? Y eso es lo bonito también de nuestra pesca.
Sí, porque por decir así, como dice usted, yo voy y le vendo ahí al mercado grande y pues ya no, ya tu pescado no tiene valor, no tiene nada, porque pues lo tratas como cualquier otro.
No.
Y no cuidas tampoco la naturaleza y de esta manera sí, porque se desangra, los peces chiquitos no se agarran,
No.
los peces de un buen tamaño y el demás se regresa, que ese a final de cuentas al poco tiempo lo vuelves a agarrar.
I think if I was a fisherman here in Veracruz, I'd be wanting to work with you, Jeff. This looks great, Victor. Wow. All right, perfect. What do we have here, Chef? This is
Tenemos agua de maracuyá, salsa molcajeteada,
okay.
mayonesa morita, salsa guacamole y te ponemos cosas típicas de Veracruz. Malanga, plátano y totopos.
Malanga is taro. So taro came with
sort of the African diaspora, right? The movement of the slaves and the sort of Gulf of Mexico is very similar ingredients.
Exactly.
And how and why they came. Doc, maybe a little bit more about how some of the vegetables, why is there taro here?
Well, Veracruz is one of the first cities in America, the Spanish cities in America. It is a sister city of La Habana, Campeche, and Cartagena.
Okay.
In
Really
in
early on,
Colombia.
colonial.
Yeah, in Colombia.
Colonial
So the people, the slaves, the traditions, and the food from all these sister cities are common. If you go to Cartagena, you can find toro as same here in Veracruz.
Veracruz was the most important trading port. In the 16th century, all this trading was with the Atlantic countries like Europe and some from Africa. But in Acapulco, in the Pacific coast of Mexico,
Right, because it's not very.
Yes.
So a land trade. Yeah.
The merchandise arrived to Acapulco, and in mules they carry to Veracruz, so the ships go to Europe.
I'm heading to Jalapa, the capital of Veracruz, to visit and cook with anthropologist and chef Raquel Torres. She's a person who intrinsically understands the cultural, family, and personal significance of this region's cuisine. She is a fierce advocate for local indigenous communities to have a voice, but more importantly, for their voice to be heard.
Así como no se puede hablar de una sola cocina mexicana, porque está por estados, por regiones, pues tampoco se puede hablar de una cocina veracruzana. Se tiene que hablar de las cocinas regionales de Veracruz. Y en ellas está sustantivamente la presencia de lo indígena y de los afrodescendientes. Y esa es la riqueza de nuestra cocina. La cocina de un estado que es cuna de la gastronomía nacional. Estas son flores de maguey. En esta zona acostumbramos comer flores dependiendo de la temporada. ¿Cuáles son las flores de temporada? Por ejemplo, ahorita estas flores de maguey a mí me están anunciando que va a empezar la primavera. Entonces, para que desde el principio este pétalo tenga un gusto, por eso es que están hirviéndose con ajo y cebolla.
¿Por qué comemos lo que comemos? Todos dicen que aprendieron de sus abuelas y que sus abuelas les enseñaron y las mamás les enseñaron y entonces todos estamos replicando, ¿no? Hay una transmisión inconsciente.
Aquí puse unas, nosotros llamamos berenjenas. Con esta, lo que vamos a hacer es poner una a servir. Aquí vamos a poner una salsa. Entonces vamos a buscar las más maduras.
Más suaves.
Sí. Exacto, porque si te das cuenta las texturas son diferentes.
Pero la transmisión empieza en lo que yo te doy de comer. Yo mamá, yo abuela, yo tía, yo quien sea quien te estoy educando. ¿Qué te estoy dando de comer? Te estoy dando de comer lo que a mí me enseñaron a comer, lo que tiene que ver con mi territorio, lo que tiene que ver con mi cultura, lo que tiene que ver con mi espacio, lo que tiene que ver con esta situación económica en la que yo me crié, y eso aplica para todos.
¿Se puede comer crudo?
Claro. Lo que nosotros hacíamos cuando era niña, se partía una madura.
No es lo mismo lo que comió alguien en una comunidad indígena, en una comunidad mestiza rural, que en una ciudad. Y todos esos sabores están intrínsecos en nuestro paladar. Entonces, cuando estamos cocinando, estamos sin saberlo, teniendo esos recuerdos, esos sabores del producto. Quiero otra cacerola con agua para esto. Sal.
Como cocinando un poquito de masa con la grasa caliente, por eso no se pegue ni a la pasta ni nada.
Exactamente. Entonces, ahora sí voy. Hay afortunadamente una fusión de ingredientes de todas las culturas o de todos los migrantes que entraron a Veracruz y que con sus especies hicieron una mezcla que es la cocina mexicana y la cocina veracruzana. Para nosotros es muy fácil comer arroz con frijoles sin saber que es un plato afromestizo. Pero así lo podemos trasladar a muchas otras comidas donde, gracias a los esfuerzos de muchos grupos y de muchas personas que han luchado por estos reconocimientos, primero de la cocina mexicana y ahora por los derechos de los afrodescendientes, es que de pronto todo esto está en la mesa y todo hay un lenguaje para referirse a ellos cuando han estado siempre, solo que invisibilizados. Esta es la idea mía en este lugar, transmitir lo que me han compartido. Porque se va a perder, además. Esa es la mayor tristeza.
I was fascinated to hear about the history of the Afro-descendants and indigenous peoples of Veracruz. And Raquel recommended that we travel to an area called Los Tuxlas, a rainforest mountainous region in the southwestern part of the state, to meet Nidia Hernandez, a regional cook who is also committed to rescuing and preserving local recipes from the past. This is an area where slaves were brought to work on sugar plantations. Their cultural influence is still ever present through the ingredients and dishes that mark the region's cuisine. Ingredients such as malanga, also known as taro, yuca, sweet potato, and cassava are all staples in Veracruz's cuisine.
En mi caso, yo crecí comiendo todo esto porque siempre en la casa de mi abuelo y de mis abuelos maternos siempre había chayote hervido, la yuca hervida. Y yo crecí con esto. Entonces siempre aquí eras o español o indio.
Ok.
Nada más.
Mestiza completo.
Sí, entonces no teníamos este conocimiento de esa raíz, ¿no? De africana.
Claro.
Y a mí me llamaba la atención porque todo lo como dulce, a todo le pongo azúcar. Cuando empiezan a sembrar acá la caña de azúcar, ¿no? Que es el primer cultivo que hacen aquí en la zona, ¿no? Que traen los españoles, pues traen esclavos africanos y ellos en África la caña de azúcar la sembraban, pero hacían un guardarraya, o sea, alrededor del cultivo, y lo que sembraban era algo similar a la yuca y a la malanga. Okay. Entonces encuentran, porque la yuca es mesoamericana, ¿no? Tiene más de 5,000 años que se consume aquí, pero es con los cubanos que aprendemos, o sea, los afrocaribeños, con los que aprendemos diversas formas de comer. Porque solo se comía en Mesoamérica, solo se comía hervido o asado.
Okay.
So to learn, as you get the diaspora happening, you get the crossroads, you get the same ingredient that's been used on another continent.
We don't have flavor on it.
I could just imagine somebody saying, "What? No, come here, let me show you."
Llegan por el puerto de Coatzacoalcos, Puerto Trinidad, que es Coatzacoalcos. Llegan por el puerto de Veracruz, ¿no? Traen africanos. Entonces, aunque no son esclavos, sus condiciones de vida eran muy precarias porque dependían de la corona. Entonces, para que les llegaran recursos tardaban meses, ¿no? Entonces, mientras, ¿qué hacían? Estas gentes empiezan a caminar hacia otros lugares y se encuentran con nativos en estas partes, ¿no? La parte de Acayucan, ¿no? La parte de la sierra, la parte de acá de los Tuxtlas, y entonces hay algunos que se empiezan a mezclar, pero también hay esclavos que huyen, ¿no? Y se internan en las comunidades nahuas de acá de la región. Entonces hay una mezcla
Por eso el son, ¿no? El baile, el son tradicional, la forma de vestir, ¿no? O sea, yo, por ejemplo, en mi caso, me ven y me dicen, eres indígena, pero mi bisabuelo viene de la parte del llano, cerca del ingenio de Coatotolapan, que era uno de los principales ingenios de la zona. Y él era alto, grande, negro, ¿no? Y mi tía, su hija también, pero mi tía siempre tuvo ese complejo, ¿no? de su piel, porque ni era india ni era española. Entonces,
y aparte era mujer.
Y aparte mujer.
Claro.
Y la más chica, ¿no? Entonces sí, como que tenía muchos conflictos por ahí. Claro. Y nos veía a mi hermano y a mí, porque somos morenos, y no sé si, muchacho, feo y prieto, ¿no? O sea, entonces era así, feo y prieto era como la combinación fatal, ¿no? Entonces, primero era así, afortunadamente mis papás siempre nos dieron mucho amor y mi papá siempre era de mi negrita, ¿no? Y mi negrito, entonces para nosotros nunca fue problema ser negro, no, al contrario, era un orgullo. Claro. Siempre me llamó esta parte, ¿no? de los negros y los ingredientes, y esta es mi comida favorita.
Sí, es una riqueza culinaria que dice, hasta cuando empiezas a comer, esto, wow, ¿no?
Sí, y yo dije, tengo que tener algo negro por ahí, ¿no? O sea, no solo indio, y entonces me voy dando cuenta que en realidad sí, que mis antepasados tienen esta raíz, ¿no? Claro. Entonces, no solamente soy indígena, sino también tengo una raíz negra por ahí que me hace sola, ¿no?
Sí, ya que está esta parte de tu paladar allá cuando estás comiendo, ¿no? Muy bien.
Bueno, vamos a cocinar con yuca.
So, yuca is really from Mesoamerica, and it's the first plant that the Olmecs were able to domesticate and basically started agriculture in Mesoamerica.
Todo el año podemos encontrar yuca,
Okay.
pero no todo el año está buena la yuca. Y déjame decirte también otro dato interesante, ¿no? Que aunque la tenemos en Mesoamérica desde hace 5,000, 4,000 años, la hemos aprendido a comer de diversas formas por otras influencias,
Okay.
¿no? Por ejemplo, la afrocaribeña.
Sure. Okay.
Llegan los cubanos a esta zona y nos muestran otras formas de cocinar la yuca.
It's really interesting that the same ingredient is available in a lot of different places, but one of the beautiful things about Veracruz is it's such a crossroads that, yes, yuca's eaten here and eaten in other places. Well, the African part and the African cuisine part of it, because of their presence, affects you, changes your style, and it becomes more diversified and more complex.
Sí, se va enriqueciendo.
Es un intercambio.
Hay un intercambio cultural y gastronómico. Ok, entonces vamos a empezar con nuestra yuca. Es yuca hervida, con sal solamente.
Boiled yuca with salt.
Ajá, y la puedes ir machacando.
¿Así?
Así, exacto, así merito. Y le vamos a integrar queso.
And what cheese is this?
Queso fresco.
Queso fresco?
Queso fresco.
De vaca.
Sí.
So cow's milk.
Le ponemos un huevo.
Oh, this is cool.
Y lo vas a mezclar bien. De aquí vamos a tomar con una cuchara y lo vamos a poner en el fuego.
We've taken the yuca, the pureed yuca that we put egg and fresh cheese in, and we're putting it into hot oil. ¿Qué tipo de grasa es?
Aceite vegetal.
Eso es aceite, okay, so it's just vegetable oil. Obviously over the open flame, which makes all the difference.
Cuando arrancas la planta y cortas la raíz ya para utilizarla, queda la planta. Y esa misma planta la cortan en trozos y la vuelven a sembrar. Esto es la raíz y aquí viene la planta.
It's interesting. They take a piece of the yucca, put it back in the ground, and it makes another yucca. So that sounds pretty sustainable to me. Always have the same plant producing more. ¿Y con el pie no hay nada que puedes hacer?
Lo ponemos en la parte de atrás y los animales en la noche vienen a comer, ¿no? No se viene.
Eso es una de las cosas que yo intento hacer allá en los restaurantes, es sí hacemos composteado todo, pero
tratar de aprovechar.
Aprovechar a 100 a todo.
Tanto la yuca como la malanga podrían considerarse como superalimentos.
Superfoods.
Sí, porque, pero no
Nuestros amigos de los 80.
Sí, pero no comerciales, sino que esto está considerada la yuca como uno de los 4 principales alimentos a nivel mundial.
Yuca está en uno de los 4 más importantes, tan consumido mundialmente.
Sí.
¡Wow! Yo no sabía eso. So vibrant, so simple, but so complex in the flavors. And it's simple, but it's really, really special. Wow. Gracias.
Gracias a ustedes por mostrarlo.
Un verdadero honor de estar en tu cocina hoy.
El honor es mío. Tener gente que quiera mostrar lo que tenemos acá.
Puedes comprar muchas cosas con dinero, pero no puedes comprar tradición y no puedes comprar historia.
Ni identidad.
Eso solamente puedes vivir. Yo sentí como recibí un regalo hoy, un regalo grande del universo, y te agradezco mucho.
Compartimos la cocina hoy.
Claro.
Y la cocina no se comparte con cualquier persona.
De acuerdo. Yo no permite mucha gente en mi cocina. Gracias. De verdad. Wow. Sorry. So a big part of what global economics and global commercialization has done is eliminated traceability. It's eliminated the ability for us to understand really the origin of what we're consuming.
We make sure all of our bottles are traceable to the producer.
Okay.
Because traceability is a tool we have as consumers to make sure the food we're consuming come from a fair and responsible value chain.
We create very close relationships between the coffee farmers and our roasters clients.
Okay.
So our goal is to change these mindsets and help to create a better quality of life in these communities.
Putting the face back on the coffee farmer. We're able to trace where the coffee's from. We're able to understand what part of the world it's coming from.
We've stopped reflecting on what had to happen for the food to get to us.
Yeah.
We never ask ourselves these questions. I like to invite people, like once a month, if you can once a week, go to your kitchen, grab something there, and just ask yourselves, where does this come from? What had to happen for this to get to me? Or what is this that I'm putting in my mouth? And choosing to buy products from people that are promoting fair and responsible value chains do make a difference.
Yes, and we want to communicate to the last clients that if they participate in this value chain, we can change together.
They're preserving it.
3 times a day, we have the opportunity to break or make the world that we live in.
If everyone made a series of very small changes, that drip in the bucket is now a stream. It's a fountain. We can change the direction and make the world a better place.